As I sat on the plane on my way to start a new life in New York, my wife, the CEO, was still back home raising hell at the family estate over what I'd done. She was threatening divorce, trying to force me to apologize to every single person who had ever humiliated me. But when she returned, she found the sprawling mansion utterly empty. Could even hear the echo of her own voice. Even the wedding portrait that had always hung in the center of the living room was gone, taken down by me. All that remained was a stark white patch on the wall, a glaring void against the surrounding paint. The anxiety that had been building for days crested into a wave of panic. Chloe's voice trembled, and when she called out again, her tone had shifted completely. Ethan, the housekeeper, Maria, came in from the backyard. Ma'am, Mr. Ethan came back 3 days ago. He was only here for half an hour. Then he left with a suitcase in a black SUV and hasn't been back since. Chloe's head was ringing. She rushed over and grabbed Maria by the collar, her eyes bloodshot from days of exhaustion. Why didn't you tell me immediately that he left with a suitcase? Maria, terrified by Chloe's frantic expression, stammered. I did call you. You called and said he just looked upset. That's all. Maria waved her hands, trying to explain. I called you right after he left, but your brother Leo answered the phone. He said you were sleeping. I told him Mr. Ethan was gone and he promised he would pass on the message. Chloe let go of Maria. Leo dared to answer my phone. She turned and pointed at the empty space on the wall. Then what happened to our wedding portrait? Mr. Ethan said it was dusty and needed cleaning, so he took it down and carried it into the bedroom. Chloe bolted up to the second floor. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. With a trembling hand, she pushed it open. The bed was perfectly made. Standing in the doorway, she suddenly felt a paralyzing fear. Unable to step inside, the room's layout was simple, and a quick scan confirmed the wedding portrait was nowhere in sight. Maybe Ethan really did just take it down to clean it. She had just started to breathe a sigh of relief when her eyes caught the corner of a picture frame sticking out from under the bed. Her knees buckled, and she scrambled on the floor, dragging the heavy frame out into the open. The 6-foot-tall portrait had been sliced in two with a pair of shears. My half was gone, leaving only the image of Chloe alone. It was then she finally realized it. The entire mansion was devoid of my scent. The doorbell rang. Chloe stumbled to her feet and rushed to the door. Her voice filled with desperate hope. It has to be Ethan. Ethan. But when she opened the door, it was just a mail carrier. Package for you, ma'am. Please sign. Here. Chloe didn't recall ordering anything, but she signed and tossed the envelope onto the console table by the door. She collapsed onto the sofa, her head in her hands. Did he say anything before he left? Anything about where he was going? Maria watched her, choosing her words carefully. No, he didn't say a word. He just told me to burn these. Haven't gotten around to it yet. She handed Chloe a thick stack of papers. Chloe took them and began to flip through the pages. With every sheet she turned, her despair deepened. They were all my medical reports from the last few years. Every single page read, Patient Ethan. Diagnosis, severe fertility. Issues. This was all Chloe's doing. She had ordered the hospital, owned by her family's corporation, to falsify my medical records, making me believe I was the reason we couldn't have a child. All these years, she knew how desperately I wanted a family, a child of my own. And yet, she had been so cruel, deceiving me, wounding me so deeply. Her tears fell one by one onto the white carpet, leaving dark, ugly stains. Immediately called her assistant. Use every resource we have. You have to find him. But her assistant delivered another bombshell. Ms. Anderson. Just a moment ago, $10 million was wired from the corporate account. Did you authorize this transfer? Chloe was stunned. Under what pretext? The assistant paused for a moment. Asset division from a divorce settlement. According to the agreement, the husband is to receive a cash payment of $10 million. Chloe screamed into the phone, "That's ridiculous. When did I get a divorce?" "The divorce papers were signed by your husband 3 days ago at 12:30 p.m. effective immediately. Duh. Legally required proof of delivery. The package you signed for was received by you personally just 10 minutes ago." Suddenly, it clicked. The mail carrier, the envelope she'd signed for, without a second glance. She lunged for it, ripping the packet open. The papers inside spilled onto the floor, scattered by a draft from the open door. Her eyes immediately locked onto the bold words, "Divorce agreement." She sank to the floor, her hands shaking as she picked up the flimsy sheet of paper. It felt heavier than anything she had ever held. She whispered the final 2 lines aloud. "We hereby agree to a voluntary divorce. Both parties, being of sound mind and full legal capacity, consent completely to all terms and arrangements set forth in this agreement with no further objections. Husband Ethan, wife Chloe." Anderson. After a 12-hour flight, my plane touched down smoothly in New York. As I walked out of the terminal, a black Cadillac Escalade was already waiting at the curb. The driver, dressed in a sharp black suit, saw me and approached with a respectful bow. "Welcome, sir. I'm the Hayes family's driver. You can call me Louisis." I simply nodded. As the car moved through the streets of New York, a light rain began to fall, and I felt a sense of detachment as if I were waking from a long dream. I turned on my phone, which had been off for the entire flight. It lit up with notifications. Hundreds of missed calls from Chloe, the last one just 5 minutes ago. There were texts, too. I glanced at a few. "You've gone too far this time. Get back here and get on your knees to apologize to my parents. Ethan, you better have a good explanation for what you did to the family plaques. Ethan, please just come back now. We can pretend none of this ever happened." I had no patience for it. I deleted everything, including the dozens of 60-second voicemails, then blocked her number and erased her contact. To this day, Chloe is probably still convinced that I can't survive without her, without the Anderson family's influence. But this time, there is absolutely no turning back. I sent a quick iMessage to Maria to let her know I was safe, then deactivated my social media accounts and snapped my SIM card in half. By now, Chloe would have the divorce papers and my $10 million would be in my account. I kept only a small fraction for myself. The rest I donated to various children's charities. The Escalade left the city behind, eventually pulling through the gates of a grand estate. I took a deep breath and stepped out. A middle-aged woman with the kindest face I had ever seen rushed towards me, pulling me into a tight embrace and sobbing, "My darling boy, your mother has waited 20 years. I finally have my son back." I was still unaccustomed to such open affection, but I let her hold me, soaking in the warmth. After a long moment, she gently pulled back and took my hand. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home." My mother wiped at her tears as we walked. "Your father, his greatest wish was to find you. Now that you're here, he can finally be at peace." That was my first night in New York. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. When I married Chloe, I thought I had finally found a place to belong, a real home. I had tried so hard to be a good husband. Even with a full staff, I insisted on cooking all of Chloe's meals myself, never making the same thing twice. I tried to be a beautiful son-in-law, staying up all night to prepare special broths for Mrs. Anderson, serving them to her first thing in the morning, never once complaining or showing any resentment. No matter how sharp and cruel her words were, if Chloe bought me a designer shirt or a new pair of shoes, and her brother Leo so much as looked at it with interest, I would give it to him without a second thought, no matter how much I might have liked it. Their son, Jacob, was distant with me, so I did everything I could to win him over, showering him with affection and gifts. But the Anderson family was like a poisoned apple, gleaming and perfect on the outside, but rotten to the core. All of my devotion, all of my sacrifices, They were all just a pathetic joke. Thankfully, I finally woke up. And in a strange way, I have Leo to thank for it. If Jacob had never come into the picture, perhaps Leo would have been content to live out his days as the quiet younger brother. Mrs. Anderson never doted on him the way she did Chloe, but she always provided for him. But as Jacob got older, Leo grew restless, no longer satisfied with being the man in his sister's shadow. He became desperate to take my place. Right now, Leo must be gloating, living out his fantasy of becoming the new man of the Anderson house. He has no idea that his nightmare is just beginning. When news of my departure reached the Anderson estate, Mr. Anderson collapsed. Mrs. Anderson, for all her dislike of me, had never considered replacing her daughter's husband or her grandson's father. Go find him quickly. What if the next man she brings home is powerful and cruel to Jacob? Leo, hiding nearby, was secretly thrilled. Now Chloe was all his. No one would stand between him and his son and the Anderson fortune. It was all going to be his. The Andersons had connections all over Chicago, but for 2 solid weeks, they found no trace of me. Chloe had no heart for her work. Documents piled up on her desk and Anderson Corporation ground to a near halt. She locked herself in her room, drinking and smoking around the clock. She still couldn't comprehend how I could leave her over something she considered so trivial. One day, their private physician, Dr. Miller, came to the house and handed Chloe a medical report. Her breath was heavy with the smell of liquor. A medical report? Are you telling me Ethan went behind my back to another hospital for tests? Dr. Miller nodded. I believe so. I found this on your desk at the office. He must have used the corporate address for the mailing information. Dazed, Chloe took the report. It read, patient sperm. Analysis shows excellent quality and motility. Fertile. Every word was a needle in her eye. She grabbed Dr. Miller by the collar. I told you to keep this confidential. Why would he ever think to go to another hospital? Miller explained. I called the clinic. He went there seeking treatment for his supposed fertility issues. Chloe released him in disbelief, stumbling backward. No wonder, she whispered. No wonder he left without a word. He knew. He knew everything. That's why he destroyed the family hall. Before Chloe could even process this revelation, an even bigger crisis erupted. Everyone at Anderson Corporation, from the top executives down to the janitorial staff, received an anonymous email at the exact same time. The email contained several video clips. The footage was grainy, but the voices were clear enough to identify the woman as their CEO, Chloe Anderson. The man, however, was clearly not her well-known husband, Ethan. Immediately, the entire company was buzzing with speculation about the identity of the man in the video. Someone even started an anonymous online poll. The list of 3 candidates included the family's chauffeur. The scandal quickly hit the national news and trended on Twitter. Hashtag Anderson Corporate Chloe Anderson in Scandal Mystery Man's Identity Unknown. Hashtag CEO Chloe Anderson's alleged affair. But who is he? Hashtag Anderson Corp's most important clients, fearing the scandal would tank the company's stock price, began calling to terminate their contracts. Investors caught wind and started a massive sell-off. The company's stock went into a free fall, losing billions in value overnight. The shock and anger sent Chloe's father into cardiac arrest. He was rushed to the ICU. Mrs. Anderson, of course, knew exactly who was in those videos. She also knew the catastrophic fallout if the man's identity was revealed. So when her husband demanded answers, she played dumb, insisting she had no idea what was going on. The Anderson Corporation board convened an emergency meeting and they didn't even invite Chloe. She only found out from her assistant's frantic call and rushed to the headquarters. She burst into the conference room, hairs, only to be informed that the board had already voted unanimously to remove her as CEO. Still half drunk, Chloe flew into a rage. Who the hell do you old fossils think you are to make decisions for Anderson Corporation? You think you can just fire me? Get the hell out of my company. But the board had already consulted her father. It was he who had given them his blessing to remove her. That disgraceful daughter of mine will not be the one to destroy this company. The result was Chloe being physically removed from the building by security, escorted out past rows of whispering employees. Some pitied the fall of their once untouchable boss, but most were scornful. If you can't keep your legs closed, you deserve everything you get. Chloe wandered the streets in a daze, asking strangers if they had seen her husband, Ethan. She had already rehearsed her explanation for the falsified medical reports. But the videos, how could she possibly explain the videos? She didn't care what the world thought of her. All that mattered was whether Ethan had seen them. She had to find him before the public figured out who the other man was. Chloe had no idea, of course, that I was the one who had sent that anonymous email. In her delirium, she saw a man across the street who vaguely resembled me. Her eyes lit up and she lunged at him, grabbing his arm. Ethan, please. Let me explain. It didn't mean anything. I only love you. Please don't leave me. The poor man was terrified. What are you doing? Get off me. But Chloe wouldn't let go. A bystander called 911 and a nearby patrol car soon arrived to take a hysterical Chloe into custody. At the station, she continued to cause a scene, demanding to file a missing persons report. My husband is missing. I want to report it. You all have to find him for me. The officers paid no attention to her ravings. Just calm down, lady. You assaulted an innocent man. You're lucky. He's not pressing charges. The Anderson family lawyer arrived, paid a fine, and smoothed things over with the man she had accosted, finally securing her release. Seeing her daughter so broken, Mrs. Anderson was torn between pity and anger. You brought this on yourself. You were the one who always said that even if Ethan found out about your affair, he would forgive you in a heartbeat. So, who is this pathetic lovesick act for? Chloe just sat there on the sofa, head bowed in misery, listening to her mother's tirade. You've pushed your father too far, she continued, her voice sharp. He's cut you off from the company. What are you going to do now? Chloe finally snapped. You knew about me. And Leo. You knew from the very beginning. You didn't stop us. You helped me hide the pregnancy with Jacob. You're the one who said he was an Anderson, that we had to find a way to make it work, that I had to marry Ethan. And now you're blaming me for it all. Mrs. Anderson clutched her chest, her face turning pale with rage. Leo, who had been eavesdropping from the top of the stairs, was busy scheming. This was his chance to force their hand. Just then, Jacob came home from school. Leo's eyes lit up. He quietly motioned for the boy to come to him. Hey, buddy. Do you want to be with your real dad forever? Jacob nodded eagerly. Of course. Then his face fell. But Mommy says I have to call you Uncle Leo. She says my only daddy is Daddy Ethan. Leo leaned in and whispered a few instructions in the boy's ear, then patted his shoulder. You just do what I told you, and we can be a real family, you and me. Jacob bounced over to his mother. Mommy, I heard that man left. I always told you he was too dumb to be my dad. Mommy, can we please let my real daddy be my daddy now? Chloe's temper exploded. She slapped the boy hard across the face. Shut your mouth. My son has only one father, and his name is Ethan. Chloe had always been a doting mother. She had never so much as raised her voice at Jacob, let alone struck him. The boy, stunned and terrified, burst into tears. Mrs. Anderson rushed to comfort her grandson, then turned on her daughter. How dare you take your anger out on the child? If you've got so much fight in you, go find Ethan and fix the mess you've made. Leo hadn't expected such a violent reaction from Chloe. It was clear that using Jacob wasn't going to be enough to secure his position. Fine. He would have to play dirtier. The videos were already out. They're thanks to me. All Leo had to do was leak a few anonymous tips to the tabloids. The public pressure would be so immense. The Andersons would have no choice but to accept him. October rolled in, blanketing New York in crisp autumn. I developed a habit of sitting in a corner cafe, nursing a hot latte. Bathe. In my mother's unconditional love, I was finally growing into my new role. As a son. Over the past month, I'd gotten sporadic updates about Chloe and the Andersons from a friend back in Chicago. Apparently, Chloe had never suspected Leo of being the one to leak the videos to me. She'd kept him around, providing for his every need, all because he was Jacob's biological father. But Leo, in his desperate rush to legitimize his position, had outed himself to the press as the mystery man from the videos. My friend was laughing. On the phone. Chloe got what she deserved, but Leo is a 2. Did he really think that would make the Andersons accept him? I heard Chloe beat him half to death for it. I took a bite of my pastry, unsurprised. I had sent the videos anonymously on purpose without revealing the man's identity. I knew Leo's character. I knew he wouldn't be able to resist using the opportunity to force the family's hand. The only surprise was Chloe's reaction. I thought she must have some genuine affection for him, but I never imagined she'd be capable of beating him so brutally. It just proved what I was beginning to understand. Chloe Anderson was a truly cold and heartless person. So, are you really over it all? My friend asked. I toyed with a fallen maple leaf I'd picked up, my voice calm. My name is Ethan Hayes now. The man you used to know is gone. After I hung up, I looked up and saw my mother walking toward the cafe, a warm smile on her face. I waved to her through the window, a feeling of pure, unadulterated happiness washing over me. Darling, you really love this little cafe, don't you? She asked, taking the seat across from me. Immediately had a sinking feeling. Mom, please tell me you didn't buy it for me. Over the past month, because I'd lingered for a moment looking at a mannequin in a downtown storefront, I was now the owner of a 10,000 feet boutique. I complimented a chef on his beef Wellington, and the next day I owned a Michelin 3-star restaurant. I mentioned offhandedly at a gallery opening that I used to paint, and suddenly I was the proprietor of a 30,000 cubic-foot art gallery. My mother had told me that if I wanted the stars in the sky, she would find a way to get them for me. I really hoped I wasn't about to become the owner of a coffee shop. My mother waved her hand dismissively. Oh, I tried to buy it, but the owner refused to sell. I let out a breath of relief, but then she added, so, I bought the entire block instead. From now on, you're the landlord. Pretty clever, right? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her triumphant expression. I put my arm around her shoulder playfully. Mom, with all these businesses you've given me, am I going to have to go get an MBA? She patted my hand, her voice full of affection. Darling boy doesn't need to go through all that trouble. You can just hire people with MBAs to run things for you. Your only job is to eat, drink, and be happy. Overcome with emotion, I hugged her tightly. Thank you, Mom. I feel so incredibly happy. She hugged me back just as fiercely. I know you suffered so much all those years. I've heard about that ex-wife of yours and her wretched family. I know you've been down lately, and I just want to see you smile. So, this is what it felt like to have someone who truly cared. Someone who could see past the facade no matter how well I constructed it. And Chloe, in all our years of marriage, had she ever once noticed that I was never ever truly happy. But that was all in the past. Now, for Ethan Hayes, life was only going to get better. Leo secretly contacted several media outlets, outing himself as the man in the video. That's right, he told them. I'm the guy you've all been looking for. He then sat back and waited for the story to break, smugly, anticipating his new role as the official man of the Anderson family. Anderson Corp's stock had just started to recover after Chloe's removal when the news storm hit. Hashtag Anderson Scandalman is CEO's own brother. Leo. Anderson adopted son Jacob suspected to be illegitimate child of Chloe and Leo Anderson. The public outcry was immediate and overwhelming, engulfing both Anderson Corporation and the family. Major news outlets condemned them for their moral failings. The stock plummeted to an all-time low. Executives resigned in droves. The once mighty Anderson Corporation was on the verge of collapse. Outside the Anderson estate, a swarm of paparazzi camped out. Their cameras trained on the house, waiting for a response. Mr. Anderson, who had just been moved out of the ICU, suffered a relapse and was rushed back into emergency care. Chloe, still with no word from me, was walking around like a ghost. It wasn't until this new scandal broke that she finally turned her attention to Leo. She remembered all the little things. Leo crying to her that I had pushed him. The way he had publicly humiliated me at the orphanage, saying I had no manners because I had no parents. She finally saw him for what he was, not her innocent, kind-hearted little brother, but a manipulative, scheming snake. Chloe smashed her phone against the wall and stormed upstairs. Leo had already seen the news and was waiting for her. When she burst into his room, he pined in front of her. "Sister, what do you think? Do I look good?" Chloe stared directly into his eyes, her voice dangerously calm. "Was it you? Did you tell the tabloids it was you in the video?" Leo showed no sign of fear, completely oblivious to the rage simmering beneath her calm exterior. "What do you think? Pretty smart right now. Mom and Dad can't possibly object to us being together. Our little family can finally be whole." Chloe's voice was still level. "And the videos? Was it you who sent them to Ethan?" Leo hesitated for a fraction of a second before breaking into a sycophantic grin. "I had to. I couldn't stand hearing our son call another man daddy. Besides, you always said how boring Ethan was. You said you were happiest with me. Remember?" Staring at his smug, manipulative face, Chloe raised her hand and slapped him so hard the sound echoed in the room. Leo was stunned, clutching his cheek in disbelief. "Sister, are you crazy? What was that for? You said things were a mess." "Well, I cleared things up. I was blind," Chloe hissed. "To ever believe you over Ethan, to ever say those things about him because of you." She grabbed a handful of his hair and started dragging him out of the room. "You love the spotlight so much. Fine, let's give you a real show." Leo screamed and fought, but Chloe was relentless, dragging him down the stairs and toward the front door. He finally understood her plan. The paparazzi had been camped outside for days, just waiting for a story. She was going to serve him up to them on a silver platter. Real fear finally set in. He struggled harder, begging for mercy. "Sister, let me go. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, for Jacob's sake, spare me." But Chloe was beyond reason. She blamed him for everything, for losing me, and she was going to make him pay. "Spare you? Dream. You love being on camera so much. Well, you're about to get your wish." Leo stopped pretending and started screaming insults. "Chloe, you hypocritical. You think I'm the one who drove Ethan away? He left because he was disgusted with you." Enraged, Chloe kicked him hard in the ribs. He let out a pained grunt. "Shut up, you worthless piece of trash," she screamed. "I'm doing this for Ethan. When he sees what I've done to you, he'll have to forgive me." She kicked open the front door and dragged him into the middle of the lawn. "Hey, paparazzi," she yelled. "Get a good look at this shameless bastard." She ordered the security guard to open the gates, and the horde of photographers swarmed onto the property, surrounding them. The frantic clicking of camera shutters drowned out Leo's screams and curses. Just then, Jacob arrived home from school. He walked toward the commotion, a confused look on his face. "Daddy." He dropped his backpack and ran to where Leo was curled on the ground. "Daddy, Why are you on the grass? Get up. One of the photographers recognized him. Hey, that's the kid they adopted from the orphanage. The rumors are true. He's their illegitimate son. All the cameras swung toward Chloe. Is that your child? Your son with your brother? Chloe hadn't expected the focus to shift to her. The color drained from her face. She stammered into the cameras. He's just the son my husband and I adopted. I don't have an illegitimate child. But despite her denial, Jacob immediately ran to her and hugged her leg. Mommy, please help Daddy. He's going to be so cold. Mortified and enraged, Chloe kicked the boy away from her. You little bastard. What did I tell you? Your father is Ethan. How many times do I have to say it? Jacob burst into tears. He's my real daddy, not that stupid man. You told me it was our secret, Mommy. Did you forget? Chloe's face was a mask of horror. She had staged this whole scene to prove her loyalty to me, to win back my forgiveness, and it had backfired spectacularly. She lunged toward the cameras, her voice a desperate shriek. Ethan, it's not true. Ethan, listen to me. He's not my son. She was completely unhinged, babbling incoherently. One moment claiming Jacob was Leo's son with some other woman. The next insisting he was just an orphan. Seeing the disaster unfolding, Mrs. Anderson came running out with a broom, trying to chase the photographers away. Get out of here. Stop spreading your lies. But it's easier to invite the devil in than to ask him to leave. The paparazzi weren't going anywhere. The entire spectacle was being live-streamed on TikTok, and hundreds of thousands of viewers were tuning in, the comment section flying. Did I hear that right? A sister and brother had a kid together. You can't even make this stuff up. The rich really are different. I always knew there was something off about her. And to think she played the part of the perfect, devoted wife. I used to own Anderson Corporation stock. When Mrs. Anderson finally arrived, having rushed from a hospital, the chaotic scene nearly made her faint. Leo was still huddled on the lawn and Jacob was sitting beside him, sobbing quietly. She heard a crashing sound from inside the house and ran toward the family hall, her vision tunneling. The hall, which had just been repaired after my own rampage, was destroyed again. The family plaques were smashed to splinters. And in the middle of the wreckage was Chloe, muttering to herself, I don't have a son. I don't have a son. Before her mother could even speak, several uniformed police officers entered the room. We're looking for Chloe Anderson. Chloe slowly looked up. Seeing the officers, a flicker of hope appeared in her eyes. She struggled to her feet. Is it about my husband? Have you found him? Officer stepped forward and put her in handcuffs. Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault. You need to come with us. Mrs. Anderson tried to intervene. You must be mistaken. My daughter has been at home this whole time. Who could she possibly have assaulted? The officer consulted his notepad. Her name is Chloe Anderson, correct? Her mother nodded. Then there's no mistake. The complaint was filed by a Mr. Leo Anderson. With that, they led Chloe away. As they crossed the lawn, they passed Leo, now wrapped in a blanket, who was staring daggers at Chloe. She suddenly broke free from the officer's grasp and kicked him squarely in the chest. You dare report me? I'll kill you. Leo crumpled to the ground, his face white with pain. He looked up at her, his eyes burning with hatred, and spat a wad of bloody saliva onto the grass. Chloe, don't you dare act so high and mighty. You seduced me when I was just a kid, had my son, and now you want to wash your hands of it all. That chance. If the Andersons think they can sacrifice me to save themselves, they're wrong. We'll all go down together. I've got nothing left to lose. Chloe lunged at him again, but the officers grabbed her and dragged her away. Leo clutched his stomach, stumbling back toward the house. Jacob ran to his side, trying to help him. Daddy, you're bleeding. We need to go to the hospital." Leo shoved him away. "You've got their blood in you, too. You're no better than they are. You just stood there and watched them do this to me." Jacob stood frozen, completely bewildered. He didn't understand what was happening. In a single day, the mother who had adored him had downed him. The father who had loved him had called him worthless. And even the grandmother who spoiled him endlessly now looked at him with contempt, calling him a curse that had destroyed their family. He sank to the ground and began to cry, his small body shaking with sobs. In the middle of the night, Leo was writhing in agony. Chloe's kicks had been more severe than anyone realized. She had ruptured his spleen. By the time the paramedics arrived, he was in shock. Took hours of surgery to save his life. Lying in his hospital bed, Leo refused Mrs. Anderson's offer of a generous settlement. His demand was simple. Either Chloe married him or he would press charges for felony assault. Mrs. Anderson tried everything. She cried. She pleaded. She reminded him of all the years the family had taken care of him. But Leo was unmoved. He had just stared death in the face. And he was determined that his suffering would not be in vain. He would be the next Mr. Anderson. Finally, Mrs. Anderson lost her temper. If it weren't for that psychic telling us an adopted son would secure the family's fortune, you'd still be in that orphanage. You ungrateful little snake. Leo remained calm, laying out his terms. Slowly. "Mother, I'd advise you not to get upset. The Anderson name isn't what it used to be. If you don't welcome me into the family publicly and with all the fanfare, your reputation will be ruined forever, and your precious daughter is still facing charges. With one word from me, she could spend years in prison." Defeated, Mrs. Anderson could only try to plate him. I'll talk to her father. This isn't a decision I can make alone." After she left, Leo stared at the ceiling, a strange mix of triumph and emptiness washing over him. He had schemed for so long to have Chloe. But was it worth it? Lately, I'd taken an interest in making coffee. Under the patient guidance of the barista at the cafe, I was even getting good at latte art. The barista, a pretty girl from Italy, was generous with her praise. "You have a real talent," she'd say in her charmingly accented English. And natural, I would just smile a little embarrassed. Since coming to New York, I was constantly being praised. If I successfully navigated a busy crosswalk, my mother would beam with pride. "My son is so clever." First, it made me blush. "Mom," I'd mumble, "I'm a grown man. You don't have to praise me for that." But she would just wave it away. "In my eyes, my son never has to grow up. Everything you do is wonderful." I was often moved to tears by her open and unconditional affection. Growing up in the foster care system, I had always been sensitive and insecure, a classic people-pleaser. When I was with Chloe, that deep-seated insecurity was always there, though she would try to soothe it. "Ethan, I love you," she'd say. "I don't care where you came from, but in the end, didn't she use that against me? Didn't she count on the fact that I had nowhere else to go? That I would never leave her, no matter how badly she hurt me?" Mrs. Anderson's approval was always conditional, her praise always backhanded. No matter how hard I tried, the best I could ever get from her was a grudging, "Well, you're starting to act like a proper son-in-law." Now, with my real mother, I was finally learning what unconditional love felt like. That night, my mother and I sat out on the terrace, and she told me the story of how she and my father had built their empire from nothing. At one point, she took my hand, her voice thick with emotion. "As the business grew, everyone told us we should have another child or adopt. But your father and I always refused. We just knew in our hearts that our son was out there somewhere waiting for us. We knew you would come back to us one day." I squeezed her hand back. He always believed he would find you, too. I'm so grateful that after everything, fate finally brought me back to you." We sat there for a long time, mother and son, simply enjoying the peace and quiet. My phone buzzed. It was a video link from my friend in Chicago. In the clip, a gaunt, haggard-looking woman was tearfully accusing her brother of seducing and manipulating her. If the headline hadn't included the names Chloe and Leo Anderson, I would never have recognized the skeletal woman on the screen as Chloe. At one point, she mumbled my name. "Ethan, please listen." My friend sent a follow-up text. Heard from a buddy in the press that she was arrested. Her own brother turned her in. She's finished this time. Serves her right. I sent him a selfie I had just taken with my mother. The moon in New York might not be the same as the one in Chicago, but with my mom here, I've never been happier. He replied with a series of crying face emojis. I was about to put my phone away when an unknown number from a Chicago area code called. I answered. "Hello, Ethan Hayes speaking." It was a nurse from a hospital in Chicago. She said a woman named Maria had been admitted in critical condition. They had found a slip of paper in her pocket with my number on it labeled son. I immediately asked for her condition. "She's stable for now, but it would be best if you could come as soon as possible to speak with her doctor." After I hung up, I told my mother what had happened. We immediately booked 2 flights back to Chicago. My mother patted my hand reassuringly. "Maria is a good woman." I was a completely different person. When Maria woke up, she saw me fussing over her. "My dear boy," she whispered. "Is that really you?" I rushed to her side and took her hand. "It's me, Maria. I'm back." Tears immediately welled in her eyes. "I told them not to call you. You finally started a new life. You shouldn't be dragged back into all this." I gently wiped her tears away. "Maria, when you're better, I want you to come live with me. Let me take care of you, the way you always took care of me." After I got her to take her medicine and fall asleep, I went to meet with her doctor to discuss the treatment plan. Luckily, they had caught the illness early. With proper treatment and rest, she was expected to make a full recovery. I breathed a sigh of relief. On my way back to the room, I ran into Mrs. Anderson. The once glamorous matriarch was now a stooped, white-haired old woman. She was carrying a food container, and she froze when she saw me. I had no desire to speak with her and turned to walk away, but she hurried after me. "Ethan, is that you, Ethan?" I stopped, but didn't turn around. "You've mistaken me for someone else." She studied me, a confused look on her face. I looked like the man she knew, but different. The man standing before her was confident and vibrant, a world away from the timid, subservient boy who had lived in her house. Well, she was still staring. I slipped past her and went back to Maria's room. Mrs. Anderson went to the nurse's station. "Excuse me, that young man who was just here. What's his name?" The nurse checked her chart. "His name is Ethan Hayes." Mrs. Anderson was splitting her time between her husband's bedside and Leo's. As soon as Mr. Anderson was lucid, she brought up the subject of Chloe and Leo's marriage. To her surprise, her husband was vehemently opposed. "No, absolutely not. She can marry anyone in the world, but not him." Mrs. Anderson pleaded with him through her tears. "But if she doesn't, she'll go to prison. Can you really bear to see that happen to our daughter?" But her husband was adamant. Finally, in desperation, Mrs. Anderson told him the truth. "Jacob, he's their son. Chloe and Leo's." Mr. Anderson's eyes went wide with horror. "An abomination," he gasped before his eyes rolled back and he slipped into a deep coma. For her daughter's sake, and for what was left of the family name, Mrs. Anderson finally gave in to Leo's demands. He dropped the charges and Chloe was released from custody, but she was a shadow of her former self. She wandered around clutching a photograph of me, asking strangers, "Have you seen this man? Is my husband. His name is Ethan." Her mother dragged her to a psychiatrist who simply shook his head. "Her sickness is of the heart. She is the only one who can cure it." Desperate, Mrs. Anderson resorted to a lie. "Chloe, darling, Ethan's back." I saw him. He's here in this very hospital." The moment Chloe heard my name, she was on her feet, dragging her mother through the halls. Mrs. Anderson led her to Maria's room and pointed through the doorway. "Look, isn't that him?" I was just helping Maria get comfortable in bed. As I turned, I saw Chloe and her mother peering through the crack in the door. My hand froze for a second, but I kept my expression neutral. "Maria, I'm going to go get some fruit. You rest." I stepped out of the room, closing the door gently behind me. Then I turned and met Chloe's gaze. The fog in her eyes seemed to clear the moment she saw me. She rushed forward to embrace me, but I took a sharp step back. She looked at me, her face a mask of disbelief. "Ethan, it's me." "It's Chloe." I raised an eyebrow. "You've made a mistake. My name isn't Ethan. The woman in that room is resting, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you don't, I'll call security and have you removed for harassment." Chloe had just gotten out of jail, and her mother had no desire for a repeat performance. "Chloe, darling, let's go see your father. We can come back and talk to him later." "All right." She reluctantly allowed her mother to lead her away, but she called over her shoulder, "Wait for me, Ethan. Please wait for me." As they walked away, Mrs. Anderson asked her daughter cautiously, "Are you sure that was him, dear?" Chloe was certain. "Of course it was. He still has that little scar on his forehead from when Jacob hit him with that toy truck." At the mention of it, her face hardened, and she vowed to make Leo pay for it right in front of me. Her mother didn't have the heart to tell her that she had already promised Leo he could marry her. Mr. Anderson, meanwhile, drifted in and out of consciousness, and every time he woke, he would whisper the same thing. "She can't marry him." I went back to the doctor to arrange for Maria's discharge. I wanted to get her back to New York as soon as possible. The doctor agreed that her condition was stable, and after one more round of tests, she would be cleared to travel. To avoid any more drama, I asked my mother to start the process of getting Maria a permanent resident visa. The television in her room was on, reporting that Anderson Corporation had been acquired in a hostile takeover. The board had ousted the Anderson family completely. That evening, I went up to the hospital's rooftop garden for some air. I wasn't surprised when Chloe followed me. Had put on makeup, styled her hair, and changed into a clean dress. "Ethan, I know it's you," she said, her voice soft. "I've missed you so much. I think about you every second of every day." Ignored her and tried to walk past, but she grabbed my sleeve. Her eyes were filled with a profound sadness. "Ethan," she choked out, "do you really not know who I am?" I pulled my arm away. "Of course I know who you are," I said, my voice cold and hard. "I'd recognize you if you were ashes in an urn." A flicker of hope ignited in her eyes, and they were running out of money. Mrs. Anderson fell to her knees in front of her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "Chloe, I'm begging you. Marry him. The family can't take any more of this." She began to bow her head, her forehead hitting the floor. Chloe started to move toward her, then stopped. Closed her eyes, a wave of resignation and regret washing over her. Leo stood there, arms crossed, enjoying the show. As he left, he delivered his ultimatum. "I'll be waiting for you at the courthouse in 3 days." Chloe whispered to herself, "You've made your bed. Now you have to lie in it." Jacob, having just woken from a nap, appeared at the top of the stairs, rubbing his eyes. "Grandma, Mommy, what's wrong? Where's Daddy?" Chloe's head snapped up. She stared at the boy, the source of all her problems, and her eyes filled with a terrifying, murderous light. I had asked her what she was going to do about Jacob. Alive, he was a problem she couldn't solve. But dead, a strange sense of calm washed over her. She would get my forgiveness, no matter the cost. She came to the hospital to find me, humming a cheerful tune. She arrived just as we were checking Maria out. She rushed forward, trying to help Maria into her wheelchair, but I pushed her away. Shot her a look of pure disgust. I believe I told you to stay away from us. Please move. She acted as if she hadn't heard me, going straight to Maria and taking her hand. Maria, it's me, Chloe, Ethan's wife. Maria snatched her hand back. My Ethan is a single man now. I don't know who you are. Chloe didn't seem to mind. She just smiled and started talking to me as if Maria wasn't there. Ethan, I've decided if you want to live in New York, then I'll move to New York. And don't you worry. I'll take care of that bastard and the boy. Then we can get remarried, okay? I had never met anyone so shameless. Chloe, have you looked in a mirror lately? You look like a pathetic stray dog begging for scraps. A few people walking by recognized her from the TikTok videos and started to point and whisper, "That's her." Chloe Anderson, the former CEO of Anderson Corporation, had it all. Then threw it away for an affair with her own brother. And that handsome guy must be her ex-husband. Good for him for getting out. He looks like a new man. Chloe's face flushed with shame. She looked at me, and for the first time, she must have truly seen the change. The insecure boy she had married was gone, replaced by a confident, self-assured man. I was wearing an expensive, tailored suit that fit me perfectly. She, on the other hand, was wearing a wrinkled, ill-fitting dress. She had lost so much weight that the dress hung off her skeletal frame. With her sunken cheeks and bruised-looking eyes, she looked like an addict. Just then, my mother pulled up in her car. She got out and stood between me and Chloe, looking her up and down with disdain. "So, you're the worthless creature my son used to be married to." Chloe tried to put on a charming smile. "Mother, I'm Chloe, Ethan's wife." My mother scoffed. "Don't you dare call me that. I am not your mother. My son must have been blind to ever get involved with a hag like you." She then turned to me and Maria, her voice bright and cheerful. "I've booked a suite at the plaza. We're going to celebrate Maria's recovery." She then shot one last withering glance at Chloe. "And we'll celebrate my son, Ethan Hayes, finally being free." Chloe was left standing on the curb, choking on our exhaust fumes. In the car, the three of us burst out laughing. My mother was still fuming. The nerve of that woman, calling me mother, as if she were worthy. Maria shook her head sadly. I watched the two of them date, get married. I never would have guessed she had such a rotten core. We hadn't driven far when we heard shouting from behind us. Apparently, Leo had followed Chloe to the hospital and had seen the whole exchange. He was now in front of her making a huge scene. "Everyone look, this is the woman who seduced me when I was just a boy, then tried to abandon me and our child. Someone get this on camera." Mortified, Chloe tried to pull him to his feet. "Stop it, Leo. You're making a scene." He sneered at her. "You think I'm embarrassing? What about you? Chasing after Ethan like a pathetic little puppy. You weren't embarrassed then." Chloe managed to wrestle him into her car and speed away. Maria was quiet for a moment, a thoughtful look on her face. Then her eyes widened. "You know, I knew that boy Leo looked familiar. I just remembered where I've seen him before." Leaned forward, intrigued. "I heard the Andersons adopted him. Was he from the same orphanage as me?" Maria shook her head. "No, he was only there for a few months in foster care. Then his biological father came and took him home." To be sure, Maria made a call to her old contacts at the orphanage. Turned out Leo wasn't an orphan at all. He was illegitimate. His mother had been a showgirl who had an affair with a wealthy married man. She had the baby, but soon after she ran off with someone else, leaving the boy behind. The rich man, to his credit, didn't want to abandon his son. So, he hired a psychic to convince his wife that adopting a boy would be good for the family's fortune, and then brought the child home. The more she spoke, the more familiar the story sounded. It sounded an awful lot like the story of the Andersons. "Do the records show the name of the man who adopted him?" I asked. There was a pause on the other end of the line as records were checked. Then the voice came back. Yes, the adoptive father is listed as Robert Anderson. My head started to spin. Chloe's father's name was Robert Anderson. Leo was his illegitimate son. That meant Chloe was his half-sister and Jacob. I couldn't even begin to process the tangled, ugly web of their family. Shook my head, overcome with a profound sense of relief that I had gotten out when I did. That family was a ticking time bomb, and when it finally exploded, it was going to be spectacular. Chloe had been complaining of stomach pains lately, and she was losing weight at an alarming rate. Her mother begged her to see a doctor, but Chloe just brushed it. Threw her arms around me. I knew it. I knew you still cared. I knew you couldn't just leave me. I wanted to shake her. Was she really so dense? Could she not hear the pure loathing in my voice? Pushed her away. Chloe, the divorce papers were perfectly clear. We are not married anymore. Stay away from me. She still believed after everything that I would just forgive her. Ethan, I know I was wrong. I never should have lied about the medical reports. Ethan, let's have a baby. A real one this time. You always wanted a baby. I was stunned by her audacity, her sheer unadulterated stupidity. I pushed the hair back from my forehead, revealing the small, pale scar. Chloe, can you make this disappear? Some wounds leave scars that never fade. What you did to me can never be undone. We can never go back. Blocked my path again, desperate. I can find the best plastic surgeon. I actually laughed. You've gotten older, Chloe, but you haven't gotten any smarter. And what about Jacob? She had no answer for that. I gave her one last warning. Stay away from me and stay away from Maria. Consider that your penance. She watched me walk away, and it was a long time before she moved. Then she lowered her head and whispered to herself, "So if Jacob is gone, you'll forgive me. Just you wait, Ethan. I'll get rid of him. I'll show you how sorry I am." When I got back to the room, my mother was holding Maria's hand, and the two of them were chatting like old friends. They were around the same age, and they'd hit it off immediately. Seeing the look on my face, they both asked what was wrong. I told them about my run-in with Chloe, and they both launched into a tirade against her. Then my mother shared some good news. "Darling, Maria's visa has been approved. We can fly home next week." Out of sight, out of mind. I finally smiled. Chloe was like a ghost from a past. I was desperate to escape. The sooner we left, the better. But Leo, it turned out, had overheard Chloe talking to her mother and learned I was back in town. Terrified that my presence would derail his plans, he showed up at Maria's room, still in his hospital gown, and blocked the doorway. The sight of his face made me sick to my stomach. He put on a pathetic pleading act. "Brother-in-law, please, I'm begging you. Let Chloe and I be together. We're just two star-crossed lovers." People were starting to stare. Didn't want to cause a scene. "Don't call me that," I said, my voice low. "Chloe and I are divorced. Who she marries now is none of my business." But he didn't believe I would walk away from the Anderson fortune so easily. He continued his act, falling to his knees and grabbing my pant leg. Now people were really starting to stare. "Jacob is my son," he wailed, managing to squeeze out a few crocodile tears. "A boy needs his father." I rolled my eyes in disgust. "You really haven't changed at all, Leo. Why don't you save this little performance for Chloe? Maybe then she'll finally leave me alone." When he saw his act wasn't working, he dropped it. He stood up, brushing the dust from his knees. "All right, Ethan, cut the crap. I know you're just playing hard to get. I'm warning you. Disappear. Don't even think about trying to get your hands on the Anderson money. I truly believe he and Chloe were made for each other. They're both idiots." I let out a cold laugh. "You really are an idiot. Instead of wasting your time here, you should check the financial news. The Andersons aren't who they used to be. The company's stock hit rock bottom and it was bought out in a takeover. It's not Anderson Corporation anymore. All your precious family has left are a couple of houses and a little bit of cash. Leo stared at me, dumbfounded. What are you talking about? I leaned in closer. Your timing is terrible. The Andersons are broke. I wish you the best of luck marrying Chloe. You two deserve each other. Just do the world a favor and stay away from everyone else. With that, I turned and walked away. When I got back to the room, I learned that my mother, to ensure Maria's comfort on the trip back, had arranged for her private jet to fly us. I was floored. Mom, how many secrets are you keeping for me? She just smiled and started showing me the portfolio of the Hayes families. Global assets. Real estate, retail, hotels, healthcare, green energy, media. I was the heir to an empire that dwarfed anything the Andersons had, even in their prime. Leo, fearing his golden ticket was about to expire, demanded that he and Chloe get married immediately. Mrs. Anderson was furious. Chloe's father is on his deathbed. You called that man father for years, and all you can think about is getting married. But Leo was a parasite. He didn't care who lived or died as long as he got his meal ticket. Chloe slapped him hard. You're delusional, Leo. He clutched his face, his eyes welling with tears. Chloe, I've been with you since I was 18. Have I ever asked for anything? And now you're just going to throw me away. If I go down, I'm taking all of you with me. Chloe spat on the floor. I would rather rot in prison than marry you. So you can just forget it. Mrs. Anderson, utterly exhausted by the drama, broke down in tears. Chloe, please, she begged. Your father is dying. If you go to prison, it will kill me. He's just a man. Just marry him. We'll keep him like a pet. Chloe shoved her mother away. This is your fault, she screamed. If you hadn't forced me to have Jacob, this bastard would have no power over me, and Ethan would never have left. Mrs. Anderson sank onto the sofa, her face pale. She regretted it. All now, turning a blind eye to their affair. If only she had intervened, sent Leo away. None of this would have happened. Her husband was still in the ICU, clinging to life. The bills were astronomical. Thousands of dollars off. Her only focus was on how to deal with Leo and Jacob. On the day they were supposed to go to the courthouse, Chloe did something she hadn't done in years. She cooked dinner. Leo, thinking she had finally come around, happily ate his fill. Jacob devoured his food, telling his mother over and over how delicious it was. Neither of them noticed that Chloe didn't touch her own plate. Leo was beaming. He ruffled his son's hair, then looked at Chloe. Sister, I knew you still cared. We'll go to the courthouse tomorrow. Promise I'll be a good husband, a much better man than Ethan ever was. I'll take care of your parents, and I'll be a good father to Jacob. Chloe watched them eat, her expression cold and unreadable. She didn't say a word when they both slumped forward, unconscious, a slow, satisfied smile spread across her face. She tied them both securely to their chairs. Then she brought in a large can of gasoline. And then she called me, Ethan, come to the house. I'm going to kill them both, Leo and Jacob. I want you to come and see for yourself how much I love you. I was stunned by her insanity. Why won't you listen to me? What happened between us wasn't anyone else's fault. You betrayed me. Killing them won't change that. She was completely unhinged. Ethan, she screamed into the phone. If you don't come, I'll burn this whole place to the ground. No one is getting out alive. She hung up. I immediately called 911 and told them everything. Mr. Hayes, the dispatcher said, we're sending a unit, but it would be best if you could meet them there. You might be able to keep her calm, prevent her from doing something reckless. My mother and Maria both insisted on coming with me. They were afraid of what Chloe might do. Back at the hospital, Mr. Anderson finally regained consciousness. With tears streaming down his face, he confessed his sins. Lo, he's the showgirl's son. My son, I hired that. Psychic. I made it all up so I could bring him home. Chloe and Leo can't get married. They're brother and sister. God, they're brother and sister. The bombshell was the final blow for the already fragile Mrs. Anderson. She began to beat her fists against her husband's chest. You old fool. You monster. You've ruined our daughter's life. You've destroyed this family. Her legs gave out and she collapsed to the floor, too stunned even to cry. Her own weakness, her own complicity had led them to this. It was all her fault. Just then, the door to the hospital room opened and a uniformed police officer stepped inside. Are you Chloe Anderson's parents? I'm afraid you'll have to come with me. Mrs. Anderson, still reeling from her husband's confession, grabbed the officer's arm, her hand trembling. What is it? What's happened? We received a call. Your daughter is holding 2 people hostage and is threatening to set fire to her house. With my mother and Maria by my side, I arrived at the Anderson house. Leo and Jacob were kneeling in the family hall. Chloe was sitting in a chair by the doorway watching them. All 3 of them were drenched in a clear liquid. In her hand, Chloe was flicking a lighter open and closed. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. Ethan, you came. I knew you would. She had dressed up for the occasion, even putting on foundation to try and hide the dark circles under her eyes. She was wearing her wedding dress, but she was so gaunt, so broken that no amount of makeup could hide the emptiness in her eyes. The dress itself, which had been stored away for years, smelled of mothballs and decay. She pulled out the tuxedo I had worn at our wedding and tossed it to me. Ethan, put it on, she pleaded. We'll go to the family altar together. We'll tell them we're not divorced. I picked up the tuxedo. The expensive fabric was yellowed and stained. When I tugged at the lapel, it ripped. I sighed. Chloe, it's old. It's ruined. It's time to throw it away. Her eyes were wild. It can be mended. We can fix it or I stop. It, I said, cutting her off. Let them go, Chloe. Before you do something you can't take back. It's time to move on. She threw her head back and laughed. A hysterical broken sound. Tears streaming down her face. I don't want to move on. I want to go back. She started rambling, recounting moments from our life together, from our first date to our wedding day. All the while, she kept flicking the lighter off. The police negotiators tried to talk to her, but she ignored them. She started talking about the time I had tried to kill myself, and she had found me. You said I saved your life, she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. You promised you would stay with me forever. Why did you break your promise? You know damn well why I wanted to die. Our entire life together was a lie. How can you expect me to honor a promise based on a lie? She slumped in her chair, her head bowed. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Can you ever forgive me? My name is Ethan Hayes, I said. And yes, I can forgive you. She looked up, a spark of hope in her eyes. Really? Does that mean you'll come back to me? I shook my head. I don't have the right to forgive you on behalf of the man I used to be. He suffered too much at your hands. I can't take away his right to hate you. She closed her eyes. The last glimmer of hope extinguished. When she opened them again, they were filled with a cold, hard rage. She lunged at Leo, kicking and punching him as he screamed in pain. Jacob, crying, tried to intervene, but she kicked him away, sending him sprawling to the floor. He was only 7 years old. He hit the ground hard and didn't move. Leo screamed and scrambled to his son's side. Chloe, you monster. He's your son. How could you? I'll kill you. He lunged at her, and the 2 of them began to fight. In the chaos, the police tactical unit stormed the room. As they led her past me, she looked at me one last time. I'm so sorry, Ethan, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Just then, Mrs. Anderson arrived, pushing through the crowd. "Don't take her," she screamed. "It's my fault. It's all my fault. Leo. He's your father's son." Chloe, who it seemed resigned to her fate, snapped her head up, her eyes wide, with a new, more profound horror. A single bloody tear traced a path down her cheek. Suddenly, someone screamed, "Fire!" An incense stick burning on the family altar had tipped over, its ember falling onto the gasoline-soaked floor. The room went up in a flash. The old tuxedo I had worn, lying on the floor, was instantly consumed by the flames. Chloe lunged for it, but the officers held her fast, pinning her to the floor. Her face pressed against the cold stone. She sobbed, "The suit. Please save the suit. I'm begging you." The farce ended, with the family hall burned to the ground. I heard later that when Mr. Anderson was told the news, he passed away. Jacob was taken to the hospital, where he remained in a coma with little hope of recovery. Leo never left his side, and people said he had gone completely mad. As I was helping Maria pack for our trip home, I got a call from the Chicago police. "Chloe Anderson is asking to see you." The night she was arrested, Chloe had been rushed to the hospital after coughing up blood. The diagnosis was terminal stomach cancer. The doctors gave her less than 3 months. She was also facing charges of kidnapping and felony assault. The officer on the phone made it clear I was under no obligation to go. I declined. "Please pass on a message for me," I said. "Tell her that in Ethan Hayes's life, there is no such person as Chloe Anderson." Lying in her hospital bed, Chloe heard the officer's message. Slowly turned her head to the side. Her breath fogged the inside of her oxygen mask. A few cloudy tears rolled down her hollow cheeks and disappeared into the collar of her hospital gown. As the private jet climbed to 30,000 feet, I looked down at the city shrinking below. In the distance, the sun broke through the clouds, its rays brilliant and blinding. I let out a long, slow breath and stretched. This is what it felt like to be reborn. My suffering was over. From now on, it was all smooth sailing for Ethan Hayes. Maria, on her first private flight, was giddy with excitement, chatting away with my mother. The two of them were already planning a trip around the world. Grand tour of the finest food and wine. I watched them, my chin in my hand, and I thought, this is what happiness looks like. On New Year's Eve, the first snow of the season began to fall on New York. As night fell, I walked along the East River, listening to the distant sound of the city's celebrations. I got a call from my friend in Chicago. Chloe was dead. She hadn't even made it the 3 months the doctors had predicted. She died less than 40 days after being admitted. He said she had refused all treatment and had tried to take her own life several times. Out of compassion. The court had never formally sentenced her, but all of the Anderson family's remaining assets had been seized. Jacob never woke up. He remained in a vegetative state. Leo had completely lost his mind. He would spend his days holding the boy's hand, rambling, "Wake up, son. It's all ours now. I'm the man of the house. I'm a millionaire." Friend sighed. I heard Mrs. Anderson's hair went white overnight. "It's a tragedy, really. A whole family just gone." After I hung up, I felt a brief pang in my chest, a ghost of an old pain. But then it passed. I had mourned for the man I used to be. On this, the last day of the year, it was time to finally let him go. I hopped on one of the red double-decker tour buses and watched the snow-covered city roll by. In The Little Prince, it says that it is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important.